Some places in China seem to exist at the edge of two worlds, where nature pushes to its limits and human ambition answers with equal force. On the Yellow River, Huku Waterfall becomes pure motion and violence. The river narrows, then collapses into chaos, sending up walls of spray and rolling thunder that echo through the canyon. Far away in the northwest, silence replaces impact. Jade Lake sits hidden in a remote landscape, its surface shifting through impossible colors, emerald turquoise and deep red, as if the water itself is changing its identity with the light. And cutting across the river valleys is something entirely different, the Three Gorges Dam. A structure so vast, it does not simply span a river, it reshapes it, redirecting one of Asia's great natural forces into a controlled system of power. Between chaos, stillness, and control lies a single question: what happens when nature and human design are both pushed to their absolute extremes? "30,000 cherry trees bloom here each spring, and the effect is not subtle. Yuantuju, known as Turtle Head Isle, stretches gently into Lake Tai in Jiangsu Province, crowned by the Huanhua Tower, a multi-tiered pagoda that rises above the water like a guardian that has been standing watch long enough to have stopped worrying about what it is guarding. From the tower's summit, sweeping views unfold across mist-veiled mountains, shimmering waves and gardens alive with seasonal color that changes faster than any single visit can capture. The spectacular cherry blossom display is attributed to the lake's unique microclimate, a delicate balance of moisture, wind, and sunlight that allows the blossoms to linger longer than in most regions of Asia. As petals drift across the tranquil surface and reflect beneath the pagoda's shadow, the island becomes a living painting, a fleeting moment of color, light, and poetic stillness that the lake seems designed to hold, and the wind seems designed to carry away. From a distance, it resembles a crimson ocean poured into a valley. Up close, it is tens of thousands of small, red wooden dwellings clustered along steep mountainsides, each one a cell in a vast organism of faith. Larongga lies hidden within the mountains of Sertar County in Sichuan, established in the late 20th century as a Buddhist academy that has grown into one of the most remarkable spiritual settlements on Earth. The valley sits more than 13,000 feet above sea level, and the settlement spreads across it without formal urban planning, its maze-like layout reflecting both deep religious devotion and the practical demands of survival in an environment that offers little comfort and asks much in return. Mist drifts slowly through the valley, weaving between the structures, as low chants resonate through air so thin that sound carries differently than it does at lower elevations. At the edge of the world, Larongga endures as a living testament to faith, resilience, and the bonds of human community formed in a place where the altitude alone should have made gathering difficult and the cold should have made staying impossible. They rise above the rice fields of southern China like watchtowers from a world that existed briefly and left its architecture behind. The Kaiping Diaolu are multi-story fortress towers, blending Chinese artistry with Western architectural design constructed between the late 19th and early 20th centuries by overseas Chinese returning to their homeland with ideas gathered from the places they had lived. Some reach 5 or 6 stories high, their concrete walls supporting Roman columns and Gothic windows in combinations that tell stories of migration, cultural exchange, and the particular kind of innovation that occurs when people carry one world's ideas into another. More than 1,000 of these structures remain scattered across Kaiping today, silent guardians of an era when East and West merged in architectural forms that neither tradition would have produced alone. The empire he built once spanned nearly a quarter of the known world. His burial site has never been found. The distance between those two facts contains everything you need to know about the man this mausoleum honors. The mausoleum of Genghis Khan stands across the sweeping grasslands of Inner Mongolia, not as a tomb, but as a spiritual sanctuary built in the mid-20th century to honor a legacy that time has done nothing to diminish. Its architecture blends Mongolian steppe traditions with monumental symmetry. A grand domed hall symbolizes the eternal blue sky, encircled by 4 towering white yurts, representing the unity of the tribes he once ruled. Inside, life-size statues of Genghis Khan and his generals stand in solemn formation. Bronze standards, war drums, and sacred relics line the halls, while vast murals trace his conquests across mountains, deserts, and rivers in scenes that compress decades of warfare into a single visual narrative. The true burial site remains unknown, guarded by silence and distance, exactly as the Khan himself appears to have intended. The dam stretches more than 1.5 miles across the Yangtze and rises over 600 feet above the river, and the numbers only become more difficult to absorb from there. The Three Gorges Dam is the largest hydroelectric project ever constructed, built over nearly 2 decades to subdue a river once feared for devastating floods. It now generates enough electricity to power tens of millions of homes each year. Behind its vast concrete walls lies a reservoir extending more than 400 miles, its waters covering ancient towns and archaeological sites that now exist only in photographs and memory. The dam's immense mass has raised questions among scientists about environmental disruption, shifting ecosystems, and subtle geological effects that were not fully anticipated when construction began. It stands as both a triumph of human engineering and a reminder that reshaping a river of this magnitude is not an act that ends when the construction does. The consequences continue, carried downstream by the same water the dam was built to control. The river does not prepare you for what it is about to do. One moment, it is wide and steady, carrying its silt-laden weight across the lost country as it has for thousands of years. The next it narrows to less than 100 feet and drops everything it is carrying into a boiling basin below. Huku Waterfall is the only yellow waterfall in China and the second largest in the country, a point on the Yellow River, where immense volumes of sediment-heavy water are forced through a natural stone gateway before plunging nearly 100 feet in a single roaring descent. The name means kettle spout, and the comparison is precise. The river pours downward through the constriction, the way tea streams from the throat of a giant pot, concentrating all its force into a single, narrow column of gold. When the rainy season arrives, the transformation is immediate. The falls swell outward, engulfing the surrounding cliffs as vast clouds of mist erupt into the air and fill the valley with a sound that carries like distant thunder rolling through stone. From metal walkways built into the canyon walls, visitors stand close enough to feel the ground tremble beneath them as waves collide and surge with a force that seems less like water and more like something alive and disagreeable. The luminous gold color comes from the fine sediment the Yellow River carries in permanent suspension, giving the cascade an almost surreal radiance, as if molten metal were flowing through ancient rock toward a destination only the river understands. The pools should not be this color. Not here, not at 10,000 feet, not surrounded by salt flats and bleached desert in every direction. Yet here they are, glowing in shades of emerald turquoise and sapphire against a landscape that seems built entirely to make them look impossible. Jade Lake lies hidden within the Kaidam Basin of Qinghai Province, formed by mineral-rich groundwater rising through thick layers of rock salt. The luminous colors come from varying concentrations of sodium, magnesium, and copper, each pool reflecting a distinct shade beneath the intense, high-altitude sun. Once known only to local salt miners, the lake rests in a region often called the treasure house of the plateau for its rare and complex geology. Across the surface, crystalline salt crusts glitter like frozen snowfields, while the deep jade waters between them resemble shards of colored glass scattered across the desert floor. Seen from above, the scene looks like a painter's palette, spilled across the wilderness, a living canvas shaped by chemistry, wind, and time, in a place where none of those three forces show any sign of stopping. To scientists, it is a natural laboratory of mineral evolution. To travelers, it feels like a dream suspended between earth and sky, occupying a space that geology has made real, but that the eye continues to question. The pools look like they were painted rather than formed. Turquoise, emerald, and gold arranged in terraced steps down a narrow glacial valley, each one holding water so still and so vivid that the surface seems solid until something disturbs it. Huanglong's scenic area lies deep within the Minshan Mountains of Sichuan, a geological masterpiece shaped across tens of thousands of years as mineral-rich spring water flowed over ancient limestone, depositing layers of calcium carbonate that gradually built the dazzling travertine formations visible today. Scientists regard Huanglong as one of the world's most well-preserved examples of carbonate topography, a rare landscape where the chemistry of water and stone is displayed in extraordinary visual detail. Towering peaks, many exceeding 16,000 feet, channel mineral-laden waters into the valley below. Surrounding forests shelter rare wildlife, including the giant panda and the golden snub-nosed monkey species, whose presence adds biological richness to the geological wonder beneath their feet. In autumn, when golden foliage reflects across sapphire pools, Huanglong transforms into something that feels less like a landscape and more like a painting that someone forgot to frame, an ever-changing canvas where geology, climate, and time have combined to produce one of nature's most vivid compositions. The pass was not built to impress. It was built to stop armies, and every stone in its construction reflects that singular purpose. Yunmen Pass rises high within the mountains of northern Shaanxi, its name meaning wild goose, Judate, a strategic corridor that has guarded the passage between the northern steppes and the heartland of ancient China for more than 2,000 years. Perched over a mile above sea level, the pass is encircled by jagged cliffs and mist-veiled ridges that form a natural fortress the builders merely reinforced rather than invented. Along these heights winds a section of the Great Wall, its grey bricks merging with the raw mountain rock so completely that from certain angles the wall and the mountain appear to be the same thing. The narrow gateway itself was shaped by tectonic uplift and centuries of wind erosion, creating terrain so naturally suited for defense that the human contribution was simply to recognize what the geology had already provided and build accordingly. Today, Yunmen Pass endures as a convergence of history, geology, and the particular kind of human intelligence that consists of knowing when the landscape has already done most of the work. Nearly 200 feet above the karst landscape of Guizhou, a stepped stone formation rises with a regularity that makes the eye hesitate between geology and intention. The Anlong Pyramid continues to intrigue scientists and historians because its terraced structure appears both natural and deliberately shaped, occupying a space between accident and design that neither discipline has been able to resolve. Some researchers suggest it may be an ancient monument carved from limestone more than 2 millennia ago. Others argue it is a geological formation, sculpted by wind, water, and time into a shape that merely suggests human involvement. Whether crafted by hands or by the slow patience of erosion, the Anlong Pyramid remains one of China's most enigmatic landscapes, a place where mystery is written into every stone layer, and the stone itself has not yet clarified whether the author was human or geological. The canyon's crimson cliffs plunge thousands of feet into shadowed ravines, and the waterfalls that spill down their faces arrive at the bottom as mist, rather than water having dissolved into the air somewhere during the descent. The Taihang Grand Canyon stretches across the border of Shanxi and Henan provinces, shaped over hundreds of millions of years by forces that worked with the patience that only water and shifting earth possess. One of its most striking features is not formed by nature at all. A transparent glass walkway clings to the vertical cliff face, more than 4,000 feet above the valley floor, suspended in open space and offering visitors the sensation of standing on nothing at all while the canyon drops away beneath their feet. Far below, winding mountain roads twist through the landscape, linking secluded villages and ancient paths once traveled by traders and monks who chose these routes because no easier alternative existed. For geologists, the canyon's layered rock walls preserve a timeline reaching back to the age of dinosaurs. For everyone else, the Taihang Grand Canyon is simply a place where the Earth decided to show its interior and has not yet closed the curtain. The mountain does not reveal itself easily. Its rugged peaks and plunging ravines form a natural fortress that has been inspiring awe and protecting its secrets for centuries. Mount Mian rises more than 2,000 meters above sea level in Shaanxi province, its geology alone worth the approach. Towering cliffs expose layers of rock sculpted by ancient seas and powerful tectonic shifts, preserving a readable record of the Earth's evolution across northern China. But the mountain is not defined by geology alone. Hidden along its steep slopes stand Taoist temples and grottos constructed directly into sheer cliff faces, with a precision that continues to puzzle those who study the engineering of the past. Some wooden structures appear to defy gravity, their beams anchored into solid rock, in ways that modern engineers have examined and respected without fully replicating. Centuries-old halls, suspended walkways, and winding stone stairways blend into forests of pine and cypress, embodying the ancient philosophy that building and landscape should become the same thing, rather than competing for attention. For archaeologists, pilgrims, and explorers, Mount Mian represents a rare convergence, a place where the geological record and the human record are both exposed on the same cliff face, readable in the same light, and equally difficult to reach. Some mountains are famous because people talk about them. Huangshan is famous because people who see it cannot stop trying to describe it, and none of them feel they have succeeded. Rising more than 6,000 feet above sea level, Huangshan's jagged granite peaks pierce the sky through vast rolling seas of cloud that have been inspiring painters, poets, and philosophers for over 1,000 years. Geologists regard the mountain as a masterpiece of tectonic uplift and erosion, millions of years of internal force and external weathering combining to produce formations so distinctive they became the reference point for an entire tradition of Chinese landscape painting. In winter, the transformation is complete. Heavy snow cloaks the ancient pines and stone spires in crystalline frost, turning the peaks into frozen sculptures suspended above the clouds in a silence so deep it becomes a quality of the landscape itself. Woven across the ridgelines are ancient stone stairways, tens of thousands of steps carved directly into the cliffs, leading to secluded Taoist temples and mountaintop pavilions, where architecture seems to hover between earth and sky. Wooden halls cling to crags. Narrow pathways vanish into drifting mist, and the visitor who has climbed for hours arrives at a vantage point that makes every step feel both justified and inadequate to the view it earned. Huangshan is more than a mountain. It is a living canvas where snowstone and human imagination have been meeting for so long that the mountain itself seems to have accepted the partnership. The mountain's name means dragon and tiger, and the landscape does its best to justify both halves of that title. Mount Longhu rises in Jiangxi province across towering sandstone cliffs, winding rivers, and forested valleys sculpted over millions of years into forms that feel more narrative than geological, as if the terrain is telling a story it has been working on for a very long time. Among its historical landmarks is an ingenious hydraulic structure, the Geju Water Control System, an early example of precision stone engineering designed to regulate river flows and protect the sacred grounds from seasonal flooding. The mountain's most haunting mystery, however, hangs above the riverbanks. Suspended within caves along sheer cliff faces are the legendary hanging coffins of the ancient Guyu people placed there more than 2,000 years ago by methods that archaeologists have studied, debated, and still not resolved. Along the river, traditional performances are staged on bamboo rafts, drifting through illuminated canyons where music, dance, and light reflect against the cliffs and bring local folklore to life in a way that makes the boundary between legend and landscape genuinely hard to locate. Mount Longhu is a tapestry woven from geology, spirituality, and art, a place where the mysteries of nature and the ambitions of humanity have been coexisting for so long that neither one seems willing to leave the other behind. The grasslands here should not exist. At more than 6,000 feet in southern China, The presence of vast alpine meadows rolling like an ocean of gold in summer and frosted silver in winter is a geographical anomaly that continues to intrigue scientists who study what high-altitude ecosystems are supposed to look like. The Wugong Mountains rise from Jiangxi province as one of China's most captivating and least expected landscapes. The rare high-elevation meadow ecosystem is shaped by geological conditions and a mountain climate that defy the patterns found almost everywhere else at this latitude. Beyond the grasslands, the mountains hold deep spiritual significance. For centuries, the range has served as a sacred destination for both Taoist and Buddhist traditions. Ancient temples, weathered stone carvings, and historic pilgrimage routes remain scattered across the slopes, preserving echoes of devotion that are still faintly audible in the wind. Hiking trails weave through dense bamboo forests, cross swaying suspension bridges, and climb steep stairways carved into the hillsides before opening onto sweeping ridgelines where travelers feel as though they have walked above the cloud layer and into a different kind of atmosphere entirely. Sunrise at Wugong is legendary for a reason. As the first light spills across the undulating grass peaks, the landscape glows with a radiance that no photograph has ever fully captured, because the quality that makes it extraordinary is not visual alone. It is the silence that accompanies it, and the feeling that the mountain is doing this for its own reasons. The mountain began forming more than 100 million years ago, and it is still not finished deciding what it wants to look like. Mount Taimu rises along the coast of Fujian province, its dramatic granite peaks, plunging valleys, and ever-shifting seas of cloud standing as evidence of tectonic forces that built something extraordinary at the edge of the ocean. The rock formations here have been compared to animals, immortals, and figures from Chinese mythology, comparisons that feel less like imaginative projection and more like accurate description once the shapes are standing in front of you. Since the Tang dynasty, the mountain has served as a sanctuary for spiritual practice. Taoist and Buddhist temples, nestled among cliffs and forested slopes, blend their tiled rooftops and stone courtyards into the surrounding landscape with a harmony that suggests the builders were listening carefully to the mountain before they laid the first stone. Ancient stairways carved directly into the rock wind through bamboo groves and misty ravines, guiding travelers towards secluded pavilions that open to views of both mountain ridges and the distant sea, a combination of coastal geography and sacred architecture found in very few places on Earth. For modern visitors, ascending Mount Taimu is a passage through deep time, where geology, history, and spirituality converge along the same stone steps, each one carrying you closer to a summit that has been waiting for more than 100 million years. "200 million years of patience carved this mountain, and not a single stroke was wasted." Deep in the untamed southwestern reaches of China, Chaishan rises as a monument to geological time, so vast it exceeds the capacity of human imagination. Limestone cliffs thrust skyward in jagged towers, their ridgelines curving and folding above green valleys born from forces that once lifted an ancient seabed into the realm of clouds and wind. Over the centuries, rain and wind have sculpted the stone with the precision of a slow and tireless hand-shaping formations that feel less like geology and more like intention. A perfectly round boulder, wedged between two cliff faces, hangs in impossible balance, a quiet demonstration of the Earth's gift for equilibrium. Not far away, a swaying wooden suspension bridge stretches across a dark gorge, offering those who cross it nothing but height, wind, and the weight of their own nerve. Today, Chaishan is drawing the attention of explorers who seek something rougher and quieter than the well-worn circuits of mainstream travel. Far from the noise of modern cities, highland villages belonging to ethnic minority communities dot the slopes, their residents carrying forward traditions passed down through generations. Hand-woven textiles and seasonal festivals celebrate a bond between people and landscape that has remained unbroken for centuries. For scientists, the mountain is more than scenery. It is a sealed geological archive, a record of deep time preserved in stone. Marine fossils embedded within the ancient rock confirm that this towering landscape once slept beneath a prehistoric ocean. Every ridgeline, every echoing canyon, every shadow that moves across the slopes tells the story of a planet shaped by forces that never rested and never will. Where the misty coastline of southeastern China meets the sky, a mountain range stands that was born in fire and sculpted by rain. The Yandang Mountains are regarded as one of the most extraordinary geological landscapes in all of China, a place where rock, water, and sky exist in a balance so precise it feels orchestrated. The range was forged roughly 120 million years ago, during a period of violent volcanic eruption. Lava cooled and hardened into vast rock formations that were then shaped over millennia by wind and rain into towering cliffs, vertical walls, and needle-thin spires that pierce the clouds like the fingers of something trying to reach heaven. The name Yandang translates to goose pond, drawn from the still alpine lakes that rest between the valleys. In an earlier age, migratory birds gathered here in great numbers, drawn by the calm water and the shelter of the stone. But Yandang is not merely a monument to natural force. It is a landscape marked equally by human devotion and endurance. During the Tang and Song dynasties, monks and poets withdrew from the world into these mountains. They carved temples and hermitages into the cliff faces, and stone staircases built along impossible angles lead to viewing platforms where clouds drift below the feet. Swaying wooden suspension bridges span deep gorges, testing the courage of those who cross them, and hidden trails wind through bamboo groves and along serrated ridgelines that seem designed to humble anyone who walks them. For geologists, Yandang remains a living field site. Layers of rhyolite and basalt in the volcanic strata preserve the record of ancient eruptions with remarkable clarity. In recognition of this value, Yandang has been designated a UNESCO Global Geopark, a place where the natural beauty and cultural heritage of China exist in rare and deliberate coexistence. Travelers who come here seek more than adventure. They come to experience the balance between immense natural power and deep stillness. The sound of waterfalls plunging between mist-filled valleys, the whisper of wind across stone. These are messages carried forward from the distant past of the planet, low and quiet, like the murmur of a heart that has been beating far longer than any of us have been alive to hear it. Rising like a mirage from the mist-shrouded landscape of Anhui Province Huangshan, the Yellow Mountains is a masterpiece that took more than 100 million years to complete. Born during the Mesozoic era through massive tectonic upheaval and volcanic activity, this range preserves within its stone the turbulent record of the planet's formation. Huangshan is celebrated for what are known as its four natural wonders: bizarre granite peaks sculpted by wind into shapes that seem to defy explanation, an ever-shifting sea of clouds that rolls through the valleys like something dreamed rather than seen. Ancient pines twisted by centuries of weather into forms so expressive they appear to possess will, and hot springs that rise from deep within the mountain, sending thin columns of steam into the cold highland air. More than 70 peaks rise toward the sky, each one carved and refined by ages of erosion into forms that hover between the real and the fantastical. For centuries, these mountains have inspired Chinese poets, painters, and philosophers, offering them a landscape that felt less like a place and more like a state of mind, made visible. When winter arrives, Huangshan transforms into yet another world. Snow settles along every ridge and branch, and the entire mountain becomes a crystalline kingdom of silence and white. Adventurous visitors climb narrow cliffside trails and steep staircases carved directly into the rock, arriving at vantage points where the earth and sky seem to merge into a single suspended plane. Today, Huangshan holds its place as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, but it is also something more. It is a sanctuary where art, nature, and the ancient spiritual traditions of China exist together in a balance that no amount of time has been able to disturb. On the mist-covered highlands of Zhejiang province, a mountain stands where stone and faith have been inseparable for more than 1,000 years. Sacred peaks in China, and one of its most geologically significant. Formed more than 100 million years ago through ancient tectonic uplift and volcanic activity, the mountain reveals a dramatic panorama of granite cliffs, sharp ridgelines, and deep ravines carved by centuries of wind and water erosion. For geologists, Tiantai is a living textbook of continental evolution. Layered rock strata tell the story of a land that once rested beneath a prehistoric sea, rising gradually over immense spans of time into the towering formation that stands today. For travelers, the mountain offers a blend of wonder and tension. Near vertical staircases cling to sheer cliff faces, and wooden suspension bridges span canyons where waterfalls plunge hundreds of feet into jade-colored pools below. Hermit temples built centuries ago into the rock preserve the traces of monks who once meditated above the clouds. It was within these sacred mountains that the Tiantai school of Buddhism was born, a tradition whose philosophical influence would spread across East Asia and reshape the spiritual landscape of an entire continent. On mornings when the fog settles thick, the mountain appears as an island floating in an endless ocean of white. When the first light of dawn strikes the peaks and bathes them in amber, the scene takes on a quality of grandeur so surreal it seems to have stepped directly out of mythology and into the visible world. Three stone blades rise from the red earth of Zhejiang province, each one forged over more than 120 million years of geological violence and patient erosion. Jianglang Mountain is a geological wonder composed of three parallel peaks that thrust skyward like enormous swords planted in the soil. Built from vivid red sandstone and conglomerate, these formations bear the marks of intense tectonic upheaval and the relentless sculpting of wind across deep time. Geologists regard Jianglang as one of the finest examples of the Danxia landform unique to China, a terrain where mineral-rich rock and vast stretches of time combine to carve the earth into shapes that seem too dramatic to be natural. From a distance, the cliffs appear almost vertical, their surfaces glowing deep vermilion in the setting sun. A massive boulder, wedged between two peaks, seems to defy gravity, inspiring both awe and quiet unease. Up close, narrow stone paths trace the knife-edge ridgelines, while mist-filled valleys below reveal their depth only in fleeting glimpses. Local legend holds that the three peaks symbolize the unity of heaven, earth, and humanity. That sacred meaning still resonates in the deep silence that wraps the mountain, a stillness so complete it feels as though the stone itself is listening. Wrapped in mist for most of the year, Mount Sanking rises between heaven and earth like a kingdom suspended in cloud. Wrapped in mist for most of the year, Mount Sanking rises between heaven and earth like a kingdom suspended